Hello, friends, family. I hope I find you well wherever you are. I'm doing very well. Just outside in the garden. It's a beautiful morning. It rained last night. So the flowers, the trees, the grass, the soil itself is happy. And of course, there's lots of life in the soil. Everybody's happy, including me. I'm happy to be alive. Today's conversation, however, is tilts towards the somber side, having a conversation that most of us avoid or will not have, even though it happens to everybody. Death, just like birth, is one event that everybody has at the beginning of their life. They are born. At the end of their life, they die or pass away. But the in-between, when you're a mature person now and you're able to make decisions or plan, most of us, especially the people of African descent, we do have a very difficult time talking about that. So I want to deep dive into that conversation today. Stay with me. In my experience, every time I've tried to raise the conversation, either with family or friends, to talk about end of life, about death, about dying, there's silence, there's chuckles, and there's outright, please do not talk about that. We don't want to be made sad today. So the day goes by and people don't talk about it. Now, the reason why this thing about talking about death and dying and how to prepare and why we should prepare comes about because I just attended a funeral a couple of days ago. And what struck me at this funeral parlor is there were a lot of old people, older than me, mostly older people, and mostly the majority were women. That demographic just tells you something. I think we as women tend to have a longer lifespan than men. So we are the ones who are in our end of life completely unprepared, without a plan, without anything set up in place to be able to transition well. So it just stimulated my mind to say, wait a minute, this is something that we need to talk about. I say older people and especially women because it was very, very distinct that there were no young people. So where I am in Southern Africa, perhaps it is because most young people are either at work or have left the country to look for greener pastures. I don't know. But that is what I have concluded, that the reason why there were not too many young people is either they are working or they are out of the country. But the worst case scenario is most of our young people are either not doing well mentally, psychologically, so they don't show up at events like a send-off funeral, or they are already late, they are passed on. So what happens to us seniors? Do we have anything that we have planned for the end of our lives? This is an inevitable thing that happens to each one of us. But when we have an opportunity to plan, maybe it's time we start getting more comfortable with actually doing that before it happens. Another disturbing thing that has happened within these last 2 weeks for me is I also heard of two young people, that one very familiar and one, in the family circle, extended family circle, who passed on younger than me, which is kind of scary that, people are passing away left, right, and center. And again, stimulating that conversation in my mind, am I prepared? Have I put things in place that will make it easy for my family, for my husband, for my children, for friends to be able to just send me off without too much drama. So this is the gist of the conversation today. So we all know that no one knows when the last day of their earthly life is. No one knows. Except, of course, if you plan. I know when I was still in Michigan back in the day, there was a physician who used to conduct those kind of end of life plans where you would have a discussion if you have a terminal illness. It was when you have a terminal illness that you discuss with him when you want him to just put you to sleep and then you leave this earth. But in general, nobody knows. Nobody plans on the actual day. It just comes for you. So because that is the reality of each and every one of us, there are certain things that need to be done. You need to be buried, and the family needs to take care of that financially. So what is it that you haven't planned to do that? Folks, it's not an easy conversation, even for me, to even think about it, because it signifies that there is an end to this life. There is an expiration date that is looming. Is this generally the same in most of our African countries? Because I'm down here in the Southern African region, and I honestly can say it is not a conversation that is held or heard by family members, by colleagues, by friends. It is a don't go to conversation. So is that the same everywhere else? I just want to know. Please comment and let me know where you're commenting from and if it is the same. Africans, we do not talk or prepare. It is generalization, I know, but it is a good assumption that most of us do not plan, including here, myself. You hardly hear of Africans talking about having wills, having trusts, having a funeral arrangement already planned. There's a folder here where your husband, your wife, your child or children or extended family can access, where they will see all those things in place and easily accessible, readily available for them to execute. Most of us do not even have lawyers. Most of us do not even know what a trust is. This just past 2 weeks has had my mind and my head spinning about that conversation. It is scary. It is something that we all don't like to talk about, but it is indeed something that we need to get used to conversating about. Now, my focus again, talking about, the end of life, none of us ever tell our families, most of us do not tell our families what we want done. Or at least we do not let someone know, so that there is no confusion, so that there is no fighting or madness at your funeral where there is conflicting stories or statements about what you wanted, because there is nothing in writing. So have you ever thought about what you want done with your remains? Do you want to be buried? Do you want to have a green burial? And that is where you are not embalmed and you just go in your shroud and you're just buried, not even in a coffin, but or casket, but straight into the ground with a shroud. Or you want the standard burial where you have a casket, embalming if it has to happen. Is it written anywhere? Do you have it? Or you just die and then the remaining family has to handle that. It just makes me wonder how many of us do not even think about it. Here in Southern Africa, and I'm going to speak for Zimbabwe, most people will have a funeral policy. They will pay into a funeral policy, which is also strange that we do pay into funeral policies, but we do not pay into a health insurance policy. That's a conversation for another day. But what happens during the time that people are mourning? Because here we do mourn for a couple of days. I have seen and heard of so much drama happening at people's funerals because there's no order. There's no one to rein in to say this is what we're doing, this is how we're going to proceed and all that. For most of the people, they do have churches, but there are some of us who are the exceptions to that rule. We do not belong to any church. So what happens? I know that I have a responsibility to define how I want my funeral, the wake, the funeral mourning period to go, because there is no church that is going to be defining that or guiding people to do that. So that's food for thought for those of you because the drama that ensues sometimes in these funerals is just unbelievable. So another thing that is now common is about people being cremated. Have you explicitly written it down in a will or somewhere or communicated with someone, especially more than one person, so people are aware that those are your wishes, so that there's no confusion when you're laying in the morgue there and people are now squabbling and fighting about what happens to your remains. Do you want to be cremated? If you want to be cremated, what do you want to happen to the ashes? Do you just want them to be put in a shelf somewhere, or you do need a burial site? I think it's morbid, yeah, but it is inevitable. So having a comfortable conversation with your loved ones, I think, is what we need to be doing. That is the responsible thing to do for all of us. For some people, they go through a period of sickness. People have gone through periods of sickness. The sudden death, it does happen. If there's no plan, there's no plan. This is why we're talking about this conversation. But at other times, people go through an illness for a long time. And if you're still capable of making your own decisions, maybe you would still instruct people of what you want and how you want things done. But in the event that you are losing your mental capacity through either Alzheimer's or dementia, that is where the struggle also ensues, because there's nothing that you would have put down or written or communicated with one or more people so that people know what to do. So while we are still capable of functioning, using our brains, our minds, communicating well, I think it is time that we stop being afraid to talk about what is an inevitable end anyway, and put it in writing or talk about it. I, for one, know that I have to put down what I want done for my burial, because I do not have a church. So if I have to have people just fooling around and cartooning me because I'm an animated person, it becomes so ridiculous. So having it in writing that you'd want some dignified send-off of some sort, with or without the priesthood or the church being involved, it's something that I do need to specify. And my friend here just decided she wants to sit with me, which is just fine. So in a nutshell, guys, this is the conversation that I felt moved to talk to you about, because it is something that I know is difficult, but maybe stimulating it by throwing it out there and saying, hey, have you thought about what happens at end of life when you pass on? What do you expect your family to do for you? Or how have you planned towards that inevitable end? So put some comments down, folks. Let's have this conversation. Tell me where you are commenting from and what happens in your country, it would be an interesting conversation to have. We travel so much, we are all over the world. What happens when you are not in your country? If you are in a foreign land, what have you decided to happen to your remains? Those are the conversations that I think we need to really spell out, so that the pain of putting you to rest is not too harsh on those remaining, and the expense and confusion is minimized because it will have been spelled out. So thank you guys, and I hope you share this conversation with someone that may need to have their mind stimulated about talking of end of life. It doesn't mean that I'm going to go tomorrow. I don't know. But it is about preparing, being prepared. And I hope that helps. Till the next time, folks, stay well, stay healthy, and I wish you a long life. Bye for now.